Hello, wine lovers! I am Raslava, sommelier and wine educator, your guide on this journey through a world of wines, spirits, and cocktails. Today we are discussing the French grape variety Melon de Bourgogne. If you are not familiar with this name, think of Muscadet, but not Muscat. They are completely different despite the similar sounding names. Melon de Bourgogne is an ancient Burgundy variety that fell out of favor in its homeland, but found a deserving new home in the neighboring Loire Valley. Loire winemakers produce pure oriental wine from Melon de Bourgogne, known as Muscadet. Under this name, the grape is well known among modern wine lovers. Melon de Bourgogne, often shortened to just Melon, is a cross between Pinot Noir and Gouais Blanc. The latter variety, now almost extinct, is an ancestor of many popular grape varieties, including Chardonnay and Aligoté. In Burgundy, Melon de Bourgogne has been cultivated since ancient times, almost dating back to the Roman era. The first written mentions of it dated to the 13th century. Melon de Bourgogne is a cold-resistant variety. It blooms very early, which allows it the possibility to bloom a second time after a spring frost. It is a late ripening grape, enabling it to absorb all the warmth that French north can provide. Additionally, it is resistant to mold, one of the plagues of cold climates. So, the variety is perfectly adapted to the cold climate of Burgundy. Due to its natural high acidity, Melon de Bourgogne produces very dry, refreshing and neutral wine. It is not very aromatic, so making a good wine from its variety requires care and effort. The climate is critical. Hot weather can destroy all aromas. Additionally, the grapes should be harvested at a cool temperature. Same applies to the fermentation process. Good Melon de Bourgogne has a light aroma of apple and citruses, with notes of pepper and a hint of saltiness. In the late 14th century, Duke Philip II the Bold of Burgundy sought to improve the quality of Burgundy's vineyards by favoring more promising varieties. He chased Gamay out of Burgundy, replaced it with Pinot Noir, and in 1367 also prohibited the planting of Melon de Bourgogne, favoring Chardonnay. While he condemned Gamay as unsuitable for human consumption, he characterized Melon de Bourgogne as simply not being good enough. Then the neighboring Loire Valley saved Melon de Bourgogne by offering it its vineyards. The Loire is a cold vinicultural region that often experiences spring frosts. Sometimes severe winters occur, harmful to grape vines. One such winter, in 1709, destroyed almost the Loire's vineyards. Meanwhile, Dutch negotiants were actively seeking places to grow grapes suitable for brandy production. For brandy, the best wines should have high acidity and a neutral taste. Melon de Bourgogne, with its natural high acidity and low aromatic profile, fit the requirements perfectly. The Dutch also sought locations near seasides because ships were the main means of transportation at that time. The Loire, with its port city of Nantes on the Loire River, just 50 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean, was ideal for their needs. Consequently, the Dutch introduced Melon de Bourgogne to the Loire Valley. So, Melon de Bourgogne, saved from the axe of the Duke of Burgundy, found a new home in the frost-ravaged vineyards of the Loire Valley and took the name of Muscadet. Don't be confused by the similar names. Muscadet and Muscat are completely different varieties with no relation, including in taste. Before discussing the fate of Melon de Bourgogne in its new homeland, let's return to Burgundy. Despite the degree of the Duke of Burgundy, Melon de Bourgogne has persisted there, for its vineyards cover only a couple of hectares. About half of these are located in the Côte de Beaune, with the rest along the Yonne River in the Tannay region. Since Melon de Bourgogne is not permitted variety in Burgundy, it cannot be classified under the oak category. All wines from Melon de Bourgogne falls under the IGT category. Tannay is the North Burgundy, a region with chalk-rich soil that imparts higher minerality and a certain coldness and austerity to the wine. Today, I have Melon de Bourgogne from domain Perdicoupes, Côte de Tannay 2021. Perdicoupes is the name of the owner and the main winemaker. He is a young winemaker and a big enthusiast of his craft. Let's try it. This is for you. A light aroma of lemon and green apples. The wine definitely has high minerality with slight chalk undertone and is cold, and not just in temperature, refreshing and with high subtle salinity. Very nice wine with good aftertaste. If you find yourself near Côte de Tannay, the winery is worth a visit. They produce not only Melon de Bourgogne, but also Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, including Rosé, and sparkling wine, essentially Crema de Bourgogne, though it could be named as such. All of their offerings are well deserved. To try Burgundian Melon de Bourgogne, you need to visit Burgundy. And I must say, this is not a bad idea at all. This wine I brought back from my wine tour of North Burgundy. By the way, you can also join me on the wine tour to the other regions of France, not just to Burgundy. For more details, you can follow links in my profile and with the first comment to this video. Now let's talk about wines from Melon de Bourgogne that are available worldwide. With the help of Dutch, who were looking for a good base for brandy production near sea transportation routes, Melon de Bourgogne gained a dominant position in Western Loire, particularly in the Nantes region. West Loire was a favorite destination for Parisians on seaside vacation, and the cold, crisp, very dry Muscadet became an iconic wine to accompany seafood. It was said that oysters are born to be enjoyed with a good glass of Muscadet. Along with North Burgundy, the Loire Valley was a primary supplier for wine to Paris, and Parisians preferred Muscadet with their fish dishes. Muscadet became popular in the French market and internationally as well. However, in the 20th century, the popularity of Muscadet waned. Melon de Bourgogne has a relatively simple taste, and the wine easily loses its aroma if not produced with proper care. To address this, Loire's winemakers introduced different approaches to saturate and enrich the wine's taste. First of all, they started using maturation on lye, sur lye for Muscadet. Lye is the sediment formed from dead yeast. By the end of fermentation, yeast has transformed all sugar into ethanol and then perishes due to starvation, forming a sediment. Typically, wine is removed from this sediment immediately. However, sometimes, to give the wine a more complex taste, it remains on the lye for a period. During maturation on lye, the dead yeast undergo autolysis, breaking down and releasing various molecules to the wine, such as proteins, peptides, polysaccharides, lipids, and more. The longer the wine remains on the lye, the more of these different molecules transfer into solution. All these molecules give the wine aromas associated with baking and nuts, and make the taste more saturated, soft, and creamy. Of course, maturation on lye is not exclusive to Loire winemakers for Muscadet preparation. Maturation on lye after secondary fermentation is a crucial step in producing sparkling wines by the traditional method, most notably champagne. For sparkling wines, maturation on lye is essential not only for developing additional specific flavors, but also for forming quality bubbles. I have discussed the technology of sparkling wine production and the role of lye in episodes on champagne. Maturation on lye is also employed in producing some still wines. For instance, it is popular among winemakers working with Chardonnay. Still and all, only Loire winemakers have turned this technique into a defining feature, proudly displaying its term surly not only on the label, but sometimes even on the bottle itself. In the past, any winemaker could mention surly on the label, regardless of how long the wine actually spent on the lid. However, in 1994, law formalized regulations about this. Now, Loire Muscadet can only be marketed as surly if it has matured on the entire winter on the lid and it's removed from the sediment no earlier than the end of the third week of March following the harvest. Many winemakers keep the wine on the lid even longer, up to October or November, enhancing the wine's body, roundness and softness. The wine must also be bottled directly from its lid without any racking or filtration. The law doesn't specify the type of vessel that can be used for lid maturation, so winemakers can use stainless steel vats or oak barrels of any size. Most of Muscadet producers today prefer standard-sized barrels made from neutral oak. While oak can impart tannins to the wine, the lid acts as a buffer between the oak and the wine, preventing the wine to becoming too tannic. Lid maturation also increases a wine's aging potential. Normally, Melon de Bourgogne produces wine that should be consumed young, within the first 3 years. However, lid maturation can extend its aging potential up to 5 years and sometimes even 10 years. In addition to lid maturation, some winemakers also use skin contact prior to fermentation. Typically, for white wine production, the juice is separated from the skins immediately after the grapes are crushed. However, in some cases, to allow wine to pick up more aromas from the skins, the juice is kept with the skins for a very short time, several hours, and at a cold temperature to prevent tannin extraction into the delicate white wine. A portion of Loire's Muscadet is made in the Vin de Premier style, similar to Beaujolais Nouveau. This is very young wine that released in the harvest year on the first day of November. By the time of bottling, Muscadet can retain some CO2, which imparts the slight fizziness, enhancing its sense of freshness. Let's briefly discuss the appellations that produce Muscadet. There are 4 of them. The most common is Muscadet Assis. Those wines cannot bear the surly marking. There are 3 higher-level appellations: Muscadet de Sèvres, Muscadet Côte de la Loire, and Muscadet de Côte la Grand Lieu. All 3 can produce surly wines. Muscadet de Côte de Grand Lieu, the youngest among them, received oak status in 1994. The others obtained oak status in 1936 and 37. The vineyards of this appellation benefit from the unique terroir of the Lac de Grand Lieu banks, and its best wines have a floral aroma and high minerality. The largest and most notable is Muscadet de Sèvres. The soil here is primarily granite and schist. Near half of the wines from this appellation are surly. The best wines from this area are medium-bodied, with good texture and minerality, balanced acidity, and a fruity aroma. I have a bottle of Muscadet de Sèvres from Vignoble-le-Château. Vignoble-le-Château is a large negociant. The wine is marked surly on the label and opposite on the bottle. Let's give it a try. This is for you. The aroma features notes of lime, white peach, melon, and a hint of honey. It has a body between light and medium, with alcohol volume of 20%, 12. The wine is very dry and fresh. While it's not complex, it's very easy and pleasant to drink. The aftertaste is nice and lingering. This wine will perfectly complement the taste of seafood without overpowering it. By the way, let's back to Melon de Bourgogne from Burgundy. It's matured on Lee also, although it is not marked on the label. This is because such marks are lower feature only. It has more saturated and soft taste. Because of that, I could suggest it spend more time on the lean. I should say that Monsieur Perdicupsis wine is softer and has more body. Taste is richer and the acidity is better balanced. I am not trying to downplay this Muscadet Cerfemen. It is a nice wine. That's about it for the global geography of Melon de Bourgogne. Most of Ibris is grown in the Loire Valley, a bit in its original home of Burgundy, and a small amount in the Willamette Valley of Oregon, USA, under the shortened name Melon. Now let's talk about the practical side. Most wines made from Melon de Bourgogne are best enjoyed within their first 3 years, although some have a potential to age for up to 5 years or more. It is best to serve them chilled to 9 to 11 degrees centigrade, 48-52 Fahrenheit. This wine is an ideal accompaniment to seafood, oyster, shrimp, lobster, and fatty fish. Its good acidity refreshes the palate, and its low aromatic profile ensures it does not dominate the taste of the food. Stay with me, subscribe to my channel. Feel free to ask questions, and don't hesitate to support me. Santé!